see if we can get this thing to work. I am hanging out. Uh, it's time. I'm working on some demos, and I'm going to incorporate Concourse. Concourse is one of my favorite tools. And yeah, let's see if we can take a look. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go this way, and we're going to see if we can take a look-see here. I have a server up and running. I'll bring that up. And then I'll switch to it. Here we go. So this is Concourse. I like Concourse. I like the UI, and it's super flexible. So all I'm doing right now is working through the docs. They're amazing. So give me a sec. I'm going to reorganize, reswizzle here because I want to make this smaller. I don't need to be special there. So let's go. So I've worked through a couple already, and I was just thinking like, hey, this is easy. Let's show it off. It's been around for a long time, and it still works. It's still amazing. I use it on my laptop. I use it for deploying apps and infrastructure, and I think it really kind of came out of the Cloud Foundry ecosystem as a way of deploying and maintaining Cloud Foundry foundations. But I use it for all the things. So let's dig in. So I'm here, and I think I just ran the get steps and inputs, so that when it runs, it says, hey, one of the steps says, hey, go and do this, cat this README file and get the output, and then we can double check to say, yeah, that's cool. So that's where we're at. And I'm in the middle of, like I said, working on a demo. So this is me refreshing some skills. I want to, remember the things that I've done in the past. It's been a while. So it's always a good time to kind of reset and reset your baselines. So I'm going to hit this. I want to make sure that I'm able to pay attention. And maybe I'm not, but that's okay. I was trying to figure out if there's a way for me to see the chat and do the stuff. We'll worry about that later. So here we are. Now we're going to add some checks. So checks are how Concourse finds the newest versions. Let's do that. And I'm going kind of fast. Let's see what it says here. If you want to debug a check container, the easiest way to do is start a shell session. So we can go in and take a peek. Okay. Oh, so this is reminding us there's that check interval. By default, all resources have a check interval of 1 minute. So I have a resource here that is a Git repo. It's going to go check that every minute. I don't know if I want that. The default keeps Concourse feeling snappy and responsive in those changes. The negative side effect is that you have a lot of resources all hitting at the same time. Yeah, you might end up DDoSing, and we've seen that. I've seen that with customers. I've seen that in action. So in these cases, you might want to increase that of the interval, or disable it and use webhooks instead. We don't have time to readjust. So we're going to keep on going, just knowing that, hey, to see the results of the last check, we can do that. We're okay. So it's checking every minute for these resources. That's great. Go down here. We're going to do a put step. The last piece of the resource interface is put steps. They are pushing some change to an external system. Okay, that works. So in order to put something in the context of the Git resource, we'll need to make a commit that can then be put to the repo. That works. So if you haven't already, probably need to provide the Git resource with your private key or username and password, depending on the format. Okay. If you're used to pushing code from your computer, you probably have a private key. Yes, I do. So here we want to push that private key, but we probably don't want to put the private key like right out in the open. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to see if we can fill it in a different way. I know that we can later, so that's okay. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this URL to a working example. And, oh, I know what we're going to do. I think I have, for the demo. And that demo is here. Oh, there's 2 repositories. That's interesting. Wait, we have 2.6 and 2.7. This one doesn't need to be here. So this is the repo that we're going to use. We're going to update it here. going to update. Oops, I don't need this one. We are going to update the branch, it's main, and we should be in a good spot. So I haven't made any other changes other than I've changed to a repo that I own. And that way, if I put a private key, let's take a look at this resource. Oh, that's a good idea. Is if you put your SSH key here, you might want to make it the SSH format. But I'm gonna ignore that for just a minute because I don't want to put my. I decided to stream. You know, of course, I'm going down the tutorial. I decided to stream, but I don't want to. I don't want to share my keys. I'm sorry. So we're gonna find later. We're gonna find in a little bit that there's another way that we can inject that key, so we don't have to have it into our, plugged into our YAML. So let's keep going. We will come back to that. And here is the outputs. Fantastic. And then here's the task, creating a commit. So I think that's okay. The first thing we did was update the resource. Here we didn't do anything. The plan was just doing a get and it was triggering. And on this task, it said hello world, like just read the repo, that's cool. And here we're creating a new one that says, hey, let me, in addition to getting the repo, now let me also create a commit. So we're going to do this just because I want that in my example as a new task. And what I'm going to do is this, because this is so much cooler with my project on this side. And then I'm going to bump it up so you can hopefully see. Whoops. All right, so now I can, I'll leave it there. I have added, did I? No, I didn't. So I'm going to add a task right here. It's getting that repo and it's reading the doc. And I'm going to add this one that now says, hey, create a commit. So we didn't rename it, we added it. We're going to show both. And it's going to use this, use any image that has the get CLI. Okay, so this one apparently has a get CLI. And inputs, it's going to grab from the same repo. Output, it's going to output back out to that same repo, this commit. Change these to match your SSH key info. My name is Sean. It's nice to meet you. Get author name. It's Sean. And it's going to run this. It's just a bash script that says, hey, cd into that repo, do today's date, add config, boom, boom, boom. But again, I'm not putting my my private key here, so it's going to fail on this task, and that's okay. Let's push that pipeline. It'll show me the diffs, so we can see all the stuff that I've added and the lines that have changed. And I like those changes. And then let's run it in that repository. I'm on step 7 of this demo. And it's working, hopefully. Let's go take a look here. There we go. That's our, it's running, which is good. And it says, hey, we're doing stuff. So it did the Git repo. It did the task where it put the output. It said, hey, it read the docs. And then on the create task, it's going to fail because I didn't give it a key. We're flexing our muscles here. Let's take a peek. All right. Let's keep on going. If you're wondering why we don't do get push from the task, that's for 2 reasons. The newly made commit represents a new version, and Concourse won't capture it correctly if it's pushed from the task, which is outside of the resource interface. Check get input. The private key is not available in the task, so you would get an authentication error if you get pushed. Okay. So what are we doing here? Put repo params repo. So it made this commit, and that's okay, but it can't do the put. I didn't have it do the put. Sh executable file not found in path. So in this image, it didn't have sh. That's interesting. Uh, an update for that. See, it pulled down that image, but it didn't have sh, and that's okay. Um, um, I don't know what to replace that with, but I'm going to keep on going. It's going to do the things. The next step would be to, like, hey, put that repo, the outputs, the changes forward. So we can set that, we can watch it, which we already did. And then using external resource types. I'm going to put this part in here. So let's say push it to that repo. And that is a part of the same plan. Let's put it here. Did I not put it in the right spot? I have my Git, then I do this task, I do another task. That looks like it's in the right spot. What's it complaining about? It's because of these. Bring this over. All right, so put the outputs to that same repository. All right, I think we're in good shape. But again, I don't have, and that's all right. So these external resource types, we have a bunch. We have registry images. What is this? Dyno feed. I don't know what that is. Announce. But a lot of resources that are enough for most people to start using, of course. However, users want to extend Concourse to work with all sorts of systems. That means bringing your own resource types. Adding a resource type to your pipeline looks very similar to adding a resource. Okay, so we can add resource types. Remember, a resource is a container image. So to pull in a new resource type, you need to tell Concourse where to pull the image from. Deal. Here's an example of using an external resource type to read an RSS feed. Got it. And I do this, and I'll tell you where I do this. Spring.io. This RSS feed. I would like my pipelines to trigger when there is a new release. And I think it's over here. Here, the RSS feed, the releases. So this is a RSS feed that I might use. Isn't there a... No, I guess it's just an Atom feed. But I use the releases blog RSS feed to trigger builds, which is awesome, so that I never miss. But if my resources are triggering every minute, probably not a big deal. So let's keep on going. Time for takeoff. This brings us to the end of the tutorial. I was hoping there was more, but you should have a basic understanding of how to read Concourse pipelines, start creating your own. Here are some other parts of the site that will take you to help you take off with Concourse. How-to guide. So writing pipelines, examples, common. Yeah, let's do that. So let's go to some pipelines. Yeah, let's just go through. Common pipeline practices. Parallelizing Git steps and jobs. Okay. All jobs usually have Git steps as their first set of steps. Okay, Git. To reduce the waiting time to the length of the longest running Git step, put all the Git steps under an in parallel step. Okay, that's cool. And then do your things. All right, specify inputs for put steps. So here, inputs detect. Apple's location, Apple basket matches. So by default, put steps facts from a job mounted in their resource container. This can result in long inits for put steps. It's likely that a put step only needs a subset of all available artifacts. There are two ways to specify which artifacts to send to a put step. You can specify detect as the put step inputs, okay? Or you can pass in an exact list of all artifacts the put step needs. Using detect, it looks like this. Apple's location. Apple basket matches the second get step. Okay. Specifying the exact inputs. Put apples in basket. Inputs are apples and apple basket. And the params are here. How did, oh, using the detect will result in apple's location and basket being passed to, and monkeys will not be passed in. Okay. That works for me. Putting task config in files. A lot of pipeline examples. You'll find embed a task step config. Task config directly in the pipeline. That's a nice way of clearly seeing what inputs outputs the task uses. Tasks are usually designed to be used in multiple places, maybe with slightly different config to support the scenario. Most users store task configs in files instead of embeddings in the config directly in the pipeline. Here's what this looks like in practice. Okay. Print date YAML stored in some Git repo under folder named tasks. Okay, so it's saying, hey, I've got this print date YAML here. Let's do that. Oop. Let's make a new file inside of here. New file. Print date YAML. This is my task. Yeah, let's add it there. And this is what it looks like. So on this platform, grab the busy box and get the date. Okay, that makes sense. Using the task in a pipeline, did I give it a name? Oh, here it is. Task today, boom. So I can do this. I can take this task and I can just add it onto my other example and I can make sure that it works. So over here where I was, both of these tasks failed, trying to create a commit and doing the put, let's do this. Let's put that task here. That's going to run, whoops. It's going to run this today task that I find over here in print date YAML. And that file is, I think I can say it like this. Is that relative? We'll see. We'll find it really quick. So let's apply that change. And let's run it. Let's see. We're expecting it to read the output of that file from the repo. Actually, that repo, it should have a README. And then print the date. So I use this repo, config path, print date YAML does not specify where the file lives. All right, so it said here, stored in some Git repo. Oh, in some Git repo under a folder named tasks. Right, so what did I do wrong? I said task. Where do I get that? Oh, it was in this one, I bet. So I ran the task, but that task is a part of this CI repo. Okay, that makes sense. So if I wanted to use this, let's do it this way. Let's do git add concourse print date git status. Yeah, git commit add task. But it's supposed to be in some, yeah, called tasks. All right, so let's push that up. It's not gonna be able to pull this one out because it's not public, but I get it. So what I needed to do here was say, hey, put it into this repository, but that's not one that we're using right now. But I'm comfortable at the moment. I'm gonna keep on going. So I need to have this file, that print date YAML, was coming from a public repository here. This is where it's coming from. So I could do this. Let's add this resource. So we can show that. And then this task is a part of this. And let's do it cool. Remember, we just learned do those gets in parallel. So let's do it like this. Let's put it in parallel. Let's do our gets there. And we're going to do one more. Get CI. So now we're getting both of our resources. We have access to both of those resources. I should put this in there too. And this is to work around an issue because I'm doing this on a Mac with Houdini. Whoops. Run these. That's just a temporary workaround. And now I expect in the git for CI, so now I have that resource, and now this task will work. If I do CI/tasks print date. So let's push that pipeline. And this is all a part, right? Having this YAML for my pipelines is just another part of doing everything as code. Like when we're going to production, I'm going to divert a little bit. I can push YAML when I want to make a change. If I have it all in a repo, I can do a commit and I can make those changes. If I'm having to deal with 100 different repositories and I'm using GitHub Actions, which I've done, right? Then I find when I'm trying to update, I want to make an improvement on my pipelines, I've got to go and update all of those repositories. And that works, right? It's an option, but I am more of a fan of having centralized path to production because I can do things like this. I can have my path to production codified, and the repositories are codified too, but they're in different repositories. Unless you're chaining, and there's ways of getting around that with GitHub Actions too. But I like having that centralized repository so I can see in one spot if there's any problems, and I can make sure that everybody gets those benefits. When you have the separate paths to production, you have these GitHub Actions that are off and owned by the repository owners, then it's harder to maintain. It's harder to, if I want to move things forward, I want to put in a constraint. I want to make sure that everybody signs their commits or whatever it is, or signs their Docker images is a better idea. I can do that in centralized pipelines. I can't do that. There are dozens or even hundreds of people in charge of that path to production. So that's why I like this. So let's go. We pushed it. Let's run it. Let's see if it works. We're expecting that repository contained something that will print the date. We can go and take a peek. Not at that, and not at this. We want to go and look at our repo. Hey, it's running. Oh, And this is, we can see that we have inputs from both the CI resource and the repo resource. Hello. And we can see we're on build line. So it gets those, it's doing thing, and date executable file not found in path. So it couldn't find the date command. In this registry, in this BusyBox image. Let's go take a peek at what this is doing. Our CI repo said in this repository, in the tasks folder, the print date. Oh, it has a mock here. I don't know what that means. Okay, so this was changed 3 years ago. I'm not sure what's happening there, but I'm comfortable. I'm still fine that it didn't work. But what I kind of would like to do, no, I'm gonna keep on going. I only have a few more minutes. I need to flex these muscles. I need to remind myself how awesome this is. So now let's specify inputs for footsteps. We already did that. Okay, we have these examples. That's cool. And this is how we do it specifically. Putting task configs in files. That's what we just did. There's our pipeline using that task. Images for tasks instead of using anonymous image resources. All right, task config. Oh, here we go. Let's try that. So for this task, do you think I can override? Let's see. It says it's easy to let Concourse fetch images for tasks right when they are by using the task config image resource field in task config. It's the easy out of the box solution. Another way is to pass the image for a task as an input to the job by setting the task step image field. Task. Let's see. Task. Where's the task step image field? This also allows you to track the version of the image being used by the task and also avoiding getting rate limited by configuring the resource with credentials. All right, so before, this is how we did it. After passing task image as job inputs, I do this. Yeah, we want to do this. This is in our key. So let's do this. Let's add that BusyBox image to our simple example here. So now we have a BusyBox, which is a registry image from this repository, and we want to pass in this Docker user and Docker password. Right, I think we can do that. And then we get the BusyBox, pass the image into the job. We'll do that down here. In parallel, get BusyBox. And then we have a simple task to use this BusyBox image to say hello world. Okay, let's try that. Let's scoot that over. It's YAML. And let's update our pipeline. Pipelines is code. Everything is code. Let's go see if it works. We go check our pipelines, and this is kind of boring, right? Building pipelines is something you do like once you get your pipelines working, they're important. Like once you get them going, if they're checking all the boxes, then you want everybody to use them. You want everybody to have all of the benefits, right? If you've got one team that's checking the PCI compliance and the HIPAA compliance, wouldn't it be nice for everybody to just get all of those benefits? Signing your images, right? Making sure that your Git commits are signed, building all of those things. Once you get it, make sure everybody gets it. So let's say it's checking the pipeline is not paused, discovering any new versions of BusyBox, and waiting for a suitable set of input versions. BusyBox, the latest version of resource is not found. So it's going to do that every minute. So we got to wait for it to get a new BusyBox image. My knees are starting to ache. I've been sitting in the car for a while. So is that going to trigger? It's a resource. The resources get checked every minute. So yeah, we expect that that's going to go. If we didn't have a version, you know what? I didn't have a Docker user or Docker password, and I bet you that's going to come up later. I'm going to let that spin. Explore input and output scenarios. Let's keep on going. Passing inputs between tasks. Okay, the output goes into the output, and then it becomes the input. Same name. All right, we've already seen that. Create one output called the output, and then take that output as an input. Let's just do that. Let's grab those two tasks. Oh, look at what it did here. So it says, hey, fill in this image resource of BusyBox with this. So that's kind of slick. That's another interesting YAML anchor approach. Let's bring those in and let's see if we can do that real quick. We're gonna bring in a couple more tasks. Hello. And let's just throw those at the bottom. Oh, we gotta move them all over. Did I not do that right? And then let's put this anchor up here. We'll throw that up here. We should probably put it, the resources have to go first. Well, let's see. Let's see if that works. Still waiting for an image. Oh, that job is still waiting. So it took long. Oh, because of this. I think it was because of this. Let's do this. We will comment that out. We will cancel that run. We're going to update that pipeline. Line 69. Line 69. Oh, I need to bump things over more. Let's try that again. Sure, that looks good. And then let's watch this run. Oh, couldn't reach. Let's try it again. I'm connecting. Oh, you know what? And this stream is probably not great. I'm connecting over my phone. So we're streaming for my car at practice over my phone. So yeah, there's some issues. So that worked. Let's go take a look at our jobs. And build number 11, it worked. It grabbed the repo, it grabbed the image, ran the hello world task, and then it created one input and passed it to the other. Fantastic. I'm gonna peek over here. We're doing good. Hey, Harpreet. Yes, streaming from the car. I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for hanging out. It's good to see you. Harpreet, I want you to know that I shared your what were we doing? I shared one of your repositories, your Karifi. I shared that with some friends, and I wanted to pass that along, let you know. Thank you for pushing out that blog on Karifi, and thank you for going like above and beyond because you added some steps around the cert manager, and you did more than just a simple, hey, here's Karifi. So yeah, high five. Well done. Job well done. So we have now done this. We've passed artifacts from one task to the other. 2 tasks with the same output. Who wins? All right. The scenario is to satisfy the curiosity cat inside all of us. Never do this in real life because you're definitely going to hurt yourself. Don't do it. Okay. I'm not going to do that. Let's go on. Mapping the names of inputs and outputs. Sometimes the names don't match between multiple tasks. Okay. Or they do match. You don't want them overriding each other. Okay. That's fine. Naming is important. Naming things is hard. Generic input. Generic output. Generic input. Oh. So we have like a generic. So sometimes input mapping, output mapping become helpful. Both of these features rename the inputs, outputs in the task config to some other name in the job plan. Fantastic. Input mapping and output mapping. The first task outputs a file with the date to the output. The output is mapped to the new name demo disk. Got it. All right, I remember doing that. I'm going to keep on going. Having multiple artifacts. Task with multiple inputs and outputs. Take 1, output, take 2. Fantastic. All right. A task will only get the artifacts that match the name of the inputs listed in the tasks config. Fantastic. Let's keep on going. Get steps, generate artifacts. I'll tell you what I want to get to, what I'm trying to get to. The reason I'm in this demo is I want to get to this part. I want to get to where we are passing in our secrets, our environment variables into our pipelines, because I use the same pipelines across multiple repositories. But for each repository, I want to pass in their specific environment. So that's the part that I'm racing to get to before practice is done here. Get steps, generating artifacts. The majority of Concourse pipelines have at least one resource, which means they have at least one get step. Using a get step in a job makes an artifact with the name of the get step available for later steps in the job plan to consume as inputs. Here's a visualization. So get Concourse examples. If I get Concourse, then I can use that as an input. I can use Concourse examples as an input to a task. Okay. Every get step results in an artifact to the task. Okay. That makes sense. Get Concourse examples and then import inputs name is Concourse examples. Fantastic. Cat Concourse examples. That makes sense to me. Gated pipeline. Gated pipelines provide control for administrators and release managers on when a given software release is deployed to a tightly protected environment. The execution of jobs that perform certain tasks, deployment, targeting the downstream environment beyond the gate step is done only upon either an approval coming from an external change control system or an explicit manual trigger. All right. By default, all jobs only run when manually triggered. that means a user has to run fly trigger job or clicks the plus button in the web interface to run a job. A job only runs automatically if one of its resource has the trigger true parameter set. Therefore, in order to create a job, a gated job in a pipeline, you must need to create a job that can only be manually triggered. That means not setting trigger true for any of the job's get steps. Okay, trigger false, trigger true, trigger false. All right, so this is the gate. All right. Okay, gated pipeline fanning in and out. You can also use a gate as a way to fan in for multiple jobs and or fan out to multiple jobs as well. So here we have a job A that says get my repo. Job B says get my repo. Trigger true, trigger true. Job C says get my repo. Trigger true. I have job that has 3 jobs. The gate manually trigger this on my repo. Triggers false. Passed. So then I'm saying all of these A, B, and C have. All right, fan out to the 3 post gate jobs. So once all of those have passed, this is interesting. There's the resource. So let's do this. Ooh. Let's put one of those fancy gates in. Past the gate, this. Okay. So we're going to add a fancy gate here. Top of that, we have a redundant jobs. Everything else should be in line. The repo that it's using is called my repo. So let's just add another repo here called my repo for funsies. We're going to call this my dash repo, my dash repo. But it's going to be the same one, and that's fine. So all that we're saying is here I've got jobs, and their job, each one of these, get this repo, and that's automatic. Like, so go do those things. But then this one, this gate says, hey, in order to move forward, I want to get that same repo, but don't trigger it automatically. Wait until all these other jobs have passed. And then that'll happen. And then this says post gate job A. Go ahead and get that repo again automatically if it's past the gate. This. Okay. I think that works. Let's push it. This is interesting. Just interesting things that we can do. It's more complex, right? I used Jenkins for a long time. Used Bitbucket pipelines for a long time. And yeah, those are kind of like step. The gating, these interesting building your own tasks, building your own Jenkins plugins. We did it, but it wasn't great. It was a little. I'm sure it's changed now. It's been a while, but that's why we're refreshing. Like, let's go ahead and get these skills, because what you're about to see from me here, VMware Explorer is right on the corner. Spring 1 is right around the corner, and I've got big plans. And you're going to see some fancy demos coming out, and I'm going to be using Concourse under the covers. Let's go see what our pipeline looks like now that we've got these gates included. That's right. Ooh, there we go. So it's like, hey, go do these things on my repo. And then this is going to happen. So did it trigger? Did I trigger it? Oh, it's done. Wait, it did the output. So how come this job, Hello World job, did its thing, but in that same pipeline, I had these other jobs, job A, B, and C, that was supposed to get, they were supposed to get my repo. So did that happen? No, it didn't. They were supposed to do this. This part was supposed to trigger. They were supposed to get my repo and they didn't. What did I do wrong? I had one job here. I created multiple jobs. Oh, you know what? It's because I only triggered the Hello World job. And what I want to do is these guys got triggered, job A. This one doesn't get triggered automatically. I've got to manually trigger the gate. Trigger. And the gate says, hey, do you have all the things ready? Whoops. Do you have everything you need? Right? Because it was gated. It said, do you have everything you need? Sure. So it passed. And then this passed. We triggered. Those all worked. We triggered this, which was the fan in. And then this, it says trigger on this. So I expect those post gate job A, I expect A, B, and C to run. Oh, there they go. They ran. Fantastic. That's what I'm talking about. Ooh. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. I'm happy. Practice looks like it's wrapping up. So call this good. And yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned for more stuff. Let's get rid of this. Boop. It's been fun. We're streaming from the car. And I hope to see you all soon. Stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more coming. Concourse Pipelines, Spring Boot, of course, Spring AI, if you haven't heard of that. We're going to the cloud. And that cloud might be on some Raspberry Pis, but we're going there. We're going to get to production. So stay tuned. Thanks for hanging out. And yeah, we'll see you soon.